Brett Dolan with us on a Thursday afternoon on Halftime. And always appreciate a chance to talk with Brett. Where in the world is Brett Dolan today? Where are you, Brett?
I am in Bud Walton Arena, so it's a quiet week. It's that lull. You're working, you're calling games, but I don't have anything on my schedule for the near future. I hate it.
It's 2 weeks in a row, man. Are you going to be on the Gator Bowl call for Touchdown Radio?
I will not. I'm going to have the Texas Bowl call again, which I think is one of the better bowl games out there with Baylor and LSU. So that's on New Year's Eve afternoon in Houston.
That LSU quarterback coming back, Drew Aller coming back at Penn State. Even talk of Quinn Ewers not leaving or coming, that he might be coming back. What are your thoughts on that, on these quarterbacks coming back? They kind of say it's a thin draft class.
Well, I like it. I mean, I think first of all, it adds some excitement to this year's bowl games because these players aren't opting out, especially those that aren't in the college football playoff. And I like it for next year, too, because in this just chaotic, transient world we live in, there's two ways, I think, to compete quickly, and that's to keep your coach and keep your quarterback if it's a good one, and then maybe do a little damage in the portal. So these teams that are able to bring Aller back and I still don't know about Ewers. I think he might be better served to go. But there's a few others that we'll be talking about next year that really could be a lot of fun to watch, especially in this conference.
Is there one of the home teams that's playing in the playoff, in the first round, that you think has the best opportunity to be upset? And I guess the better way to ask the question is, which road team do you think pulls off the upset?
Yeah, it's tough because I think the odds makers like me are looking at it, and you're really kind of favoring the home teams because I think the smallest line is about 7.5 points. So what happens is when you give teams like Boise State and Arizona State buys, and they clearly aren't two of the best four teams, then two of the better four teams are now playing this weekend, which I think creates some problems. So I think Notre Dame's in a pretty good spot. The one game that gives me pause is Ohio State and Tennessee. Now, I think ESPN said it best this morning. There's probably two boom or bust teams that could either win the whole darn thing or maybe lose in week one or in this week, and that would be Texas and Ohio State. I don't want to die on the Ohio State bandwagon because I do feel like they have talent, but they can't run the football. They've had all kinds of offensive line issues. And I know it's going to be a little bit cold in Columbus and whatnot, and they've got good receivers. Their quarterback did not play well in a big game. So if they can't run the football with their issues, with two outstanding running backs, and Tennessee can figure out a way to score some points with Nico and company, maybe that would be the one game you would look to as a possibility. But I think Notre Dame clearly has the easiest path to the championship game. And when you do look at the brackets, the bottom of the bracket with Notre Dame seems significantly weaker than the top with Ohio State, Tennessee, Oregon, and whatnot.
Clemson has an edge rusher that's going to be a lottery pick. Tennessee, the same thing. They got a guy that's a top 20 and as an edge rusher. Texas has the best defensive stop rate in all of college football. Notre Dame might have both sides of the ball as far as offense and defensive line, might be the best combined unit. Is it going to be one in the trenches? As far as we're not really, who is the best skill player that you're trying to watch? Is it a receiver at Arizona State? Is it the running back at Boise State? Not a lot of, just not a lot of hype on some skill guys. Who's the best skill guy you see?
No, that's not a bad thought process. Scadaboo for Arizona State was incredible to watch in that Big 12 championship game, and it's what probably bumped him all the way up, I think, to fifth in the Heisman, which I don't know if we saw coming. Genty obviously will be a skill position guy. Ohio State has some receivers, but again, if you can't get them the football, it kind of negates a little bit of that. I'm with you. I think especially because teams are fairly stout up front, and Texas is one of those, and because we're talking about these playoff games, at least these first four, being maybe weather-dominated, where it's even more important to run or stop the run, that may be some of the focus. I don't know if that'll shift a little bit, Matt, once we get to the next round when these games are indoors or at warmer weather venues, but I do think that's why even Texas, they've had a hard time getting the ball in the end zone, but they've been able to keep teams out of the end zone. So I think that's probably maybe the storyline we get. I hope we don't get a bunch of 14-10 Big Ten type games, but we might, because it does change everything when you're trying to run when it's cold and wet and all the the Midwestern elements come into play.
You know, if I'm Texas, it's not like I want to take the game out of Ewer's hands because he can do some things for you. It's just he's to me it comes off as a wild card, Brett. Like there were a couple of passes in the Arkansas game that I think could have been picked off, and that could have been the difference. I mean, I remember one pass that went right into Sori's hands, both hands. He knocked it down. He wasn't able to catch it, and you know, a couple of turnovers in the wrong spot on the field for Texas. That would be a huge upset, but it's what I could see Clemson pulling off. I mean, there's a little hope thrown in there too, but I think there's some reality as well.
I think the question would then be, how long would the leash be on Ewers if you have Arch Manning available to bring him in? If Quinn's struggling a little bit, we saw that with Tua a few years ago in Jalen Hurts. You know, he was the hot hand. They brought him in. It turned the game. It won a championship. The one thing about Ewers that's interesting, because his numbers on long passes look good, but his ability to hit the deep ball is not good. We saw that here in Arkansas, missing a couple of guys deep downfield. When he gets those 30-yard passes, they're tight end seam routes, they're running back screen plays. When that game is going well, they are extremely effective, but teams have scouted them. And the other issue is they played Georgia twice. And Georgia maybe a little bit better even before they had their quarterback injury. The first time, Georgia only had about 250 yards, and Texas enabled them with turnovers, mistakes, missed opportunities from Ewers. That game in the SEC championship probably could have been 21-3 at the half. Instead, it was 6-3. They outgained them by just this crazy margin. Georgia barely had 30, 40 yards total offense, but Texas couldn't get it in the end zone. So if Quinn Ewers and Texas want to avoid what would be really an ugly upset at the beginning, they just have to find a way to capitalize and score some touchdowns. Their defense will keep a minute, but you're right. That's going to be something to watch to see if Ewers can make enough plays or whether they go to the sideline and give Arch a chance for a series or two.
All right, if there was Phil asked Bill this question yesterday. If there was only one game, Brett, that you could watch, you only out of these 4 games, which one would it be?
I think I want to watch the one Friday night, Notre Dame and Indiana, just because of the regional nature and the fact that these teams don't play each other because it's South Bend. It's a night game in Notre Dame. Certainly the weather, I think, will make it fun to be kind of under the lights. It'll have kind of a Lambeau field to it. You know, there's a couple of other ones. I don't even think Penn State's going to sell out this week. So I do think there's going to be some issues with some just not having the same atmosphere we're used to for college football games because the students are gone and you're relying on different people to come in and take up those seats. I don't think we'll have that problem Friday night. So I really want to watch that Indiana-Notre Dame game.
Brent, I want to move over to basketball here for a moment. There are 3 games remaining before the start of SEC play. Might be 2 games now that I think of it. The team, it looks like they're starting to round into form a little in terms of health. You know, Cal's still talking about we're behind the other teams in the SEC in terms of togetherness and just playing together, but there are signs that they're coming together and that they're becoming much more healthy. It's just, you know, I've never seen quite anything like a league that's got almost a 90% winning percentage out of conference. It's just going to be wild, and you're thinking 8 wins gets you into the NCAA tournament. 8 SEC wins probably is enough.
No, I think so. I mean, I'm still on these email lists from ESPN from Lenardi. He's already been doing his projections for a couple of weeks. He's had 12 SEC teams in. It wasn't that long ago. Arkansas was a 10 seed. They've had some big wins since then. But you're right. Even you watched the games last night. Freaking Alabama's going to North Dakota in a dogfight at North Dakota, and Michigan and Oklahoma, I believe, won at it. And you know these SEC teams keep finding ways to win, but I don't know what it's going to look like because I agree with you, Phil. I think this men's team for Arkansas, they're getting better. I think it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 back with health. Zero obviously will get over the illness. Big Z, we need to see him where he was a month ago and not what he has been like in the last couple of games. But they're clearly edging in the right direction. The problem is these other teams are doing the same thing in the SEC, and maybe they aren't quite as limited by health or illness. So, you know, it's going to be fascinating. But my goodness, I'm glad I don't have to coach in this league because there may be teams that play well and go through a stretch where they go 1-3 in 4 games, and that will not be any fun for any teams if they feel like they have a squad that could compete nationally but's having a hard time doing it in conference. And maybe this is the one year where the college basketball ranks in the SEC is even more of cutthroat than the SEC football that we've become used to over the last decade or more.
I can't point to like one reason why it feels like they're coalescing now. But if I had to say one reason, I would say it's Jonas Aidoo getting healthy. I think he's a linchpin for this team just because of the style that he played. They brought him in for a reason because he's already done this at Tennessee in the SEC. I think getting him back healthy is probably the biggest thing that's happened so far. And I don't know if he's even at 100%, but he's certainly beginning to play closer to it.
No, I don't think he is 100%. And we said it on the telecast the other day with Joe Klein. I think Kyle got to the point where he's like, bro, we're just going to have to throw you out there and go. I mean, we're not going to be comfortable throwing you in there when you're 85%. We've got to just work you in and wait till you get up to that point. I would agree he provides a different presence, being able to clean up at the rim some of the misses and also defend. It's changed everything for Arkansas. And having said that, better Trevin Brazil has not hurt in that aspect too, because he's also been kind of bouncy and providing Aidoo a different look, same size but different type of player, and those two together, I think, between Trevin just getting a few more minutes and looking better, and Aidoo playing many more minutes and kind of getting back to that player he was last year, has really given this team a lift because it allows the guards to do a little more. They still can create a lot of points off steals and turnovers, but they can also get in the half-court set and score some points. And we saw that against Michigan. We saw it very early in the game against UCA. And these next 2 games probably will not be terribly competitive, but it does give them 2 more chances just to kind of hope that they're clicking on all cylinders by the time they get to the first of the year and league play.
Was last week the winter meetings with your son?
It all blurs. Yeah, a week and a half ago or so, yeah, back in Dallas.
Brett's son's starting a Major League Baseball career now. He's with the Braves, right? What's the job?
He's going to be in minor league data analytics and tech, so he'll go to spring training. He'll be with one of their minor league teams, and he feels like he's 10 feet tall. I was at his college graduation on Monday, but he got his job with the Braves a week before that. And, he's pretty pumped up, and Dad's pretty excited too.
There's nothing quite like getting that phone call, right? I've had a call like that before. I think you have too.
Yeah, no, it's thrilling, and he had a couple of opportunities, so I felt pretty good. He was going to get one, and the Braves came knocking first, and it's hard to argue with what they've done in their farm system. So happy for him. He's happier that he gets a couple of months off with not a lot to do before spring training, as he told me he's going to get really good at golf in that stretch, and I'm like, well, I guess you've earned it, but when he gets to spring training, it'll be another chapter for him, and I'm excited.
Well, hopefully he'll have a pitching coach on his team that he's traveling with that plays golf, because you know what those guys are like. I mean, they'll play 36 holes a day sometimes. Brett, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you hopping on. Thank you so much. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll visit again with you next week as long as you got the time.
Indeed. Happy holidays, guys.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Brett.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.